DevOps has been a trending phrase for nearly 2 decades, and its popularity is increasing rapidly. According to IDC, the global DevOps software market will hit $6.6 billion in 2022, up from $2.9 billion in 2017. But how do you ace a DevOps interview? What tangible benefits can DevOps provide? Hello, my name is Eric from Invensis Learning, and I'd like to welcome you to our YouTube channel. In this DevOps session, we will learn everything there is to know about DevOps from an interview perspective. Here's the agenda. We will start with the demand for DevOps, then look at interview questions, which are further divided into general questions, questions on DevOps tools, and other questions on cloud. After that, we will look at some interview tips, and finally, we will conclude this session with resources. Doesn't that sound interesting? So let's get started. Before starting with the interview questions, we will see the demand for DevOps in the IT industry. Now we will see the average salary trends of the top 5 countries in the world offering DevOps roles. The average wage in the United States is $115,000. In Canada, the average salary is $84,000. The average salary in the United Kingdom is €46,000. India's average wage is 650,000 Indian rupees. The average salary in Australia is $130,000. The current market is evolving around automation, and here DevOps will automate the development process. DevOps ranks number 2 in the top 10 highest paid jobs given by Robert Half Technologies 2021. This shows how DevOps is important. For more details on DevOps concepts, refer to our website, envencislearning.com. Now we will start with the general questions asked in the DevOps interview. What is DevOps? This is one of the most asked questions in the DevOps interview. The answer must be simple and straightforward. So here, the answer should start with the importance of DevOps in the market. Here the common answer to this question is: DevOps is a methodology used to resolve the conflicts between the developer and operations team, which accelerates software delivery with a minimal failure rate. DevOps helps the team coordination throughout the life cycle. What are the different SDLC models? Explain any two. For this question, explain what SDLC is and then start with any 2 models that you are confident. Here SDLC is nothing but the software development life cycle, which is responsible for handling the software development. The 2 major life cycles that are present in the market are: Waterfall model. This model is the oldest model that follows sequential order, and it is a well-documented process. Agile model. This model is used to facilitate the smaller releases based on priority, and this is used to deliver the product faster. How is DevOps different from the Agile model? Once you mention Agile in your answer, the question will go with its difference, so the answer should be straightforward. Now the answer to this can be in the bellow format. DevOps is a culture that helps to resolve the conflicts between the development and operations team and make them work together. DevOps works on the automation of the development process. Agile is a methodology that concentrates on iterative, incremental, and rapid development in software. Agile will fill the gap between developers and end users with the help of feedback. What are different phases in DevOps? For this question, the answer should follow the order, and those are: continuous development, continuous testing, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous monitoring. What is the importance of continuous integration? The answer to this question should focus only on continuous integration. Continuous integration is a part of the DevOps life cycle, where continuous integration is also called DevOps Heart, which automates the whole process. And it will integrate the code changes regularly to maintain the latest version. What is the importance of automation in DevOps? Since we stated automation in the previous answer, there will be a question on automation. To answer this question, you should start with the need for automation and then the implementation of automation in the life cycle. As the development and testing process is continuous, and they need to test regularly for facilitating the changes, those are made regularly will be fetched with the help of automation, and automation is achieved with the help of scripting. What are the major tools used in the DevOps life cycle? This is a generic question. To check the tools you had worked on while answering the question, and you need to give the names of tools you know well. Git, Docker, Kubernetes, Jenkins, Selenium, Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Nagios, Terraform. You can also mention the tools in a single line about their usage in the DevOps life cycle. Name the tools that you have used earlier. This question will be an extension of the previous question, so you need to answer this question with similar tools. So here the tools are: Git, Docker, Kubernetes, Jenkins, Selenium, Puppet, Ansible, Chef, Nagios, Terraform. Describe the role of cloud computing in DevOps. Cloud computing will help DevOps with four major aspects: flexible services, scaling purpose, automation, security. Cloud computing makes the implementation of DevOps simpler by empowering each step of the development lifecycle. Through clouds, applications can be built and tested on various environments, thanks to kernels and virtualization. Removing the need for physical machine tests increases time savings, in addition to cost reductions due to the on-demand nature of cloud technology. Describe the importance of infrastructure as a code. This question is related to the previous one, where the infrastructure will create over a cloud platform. So, for creating that infrastructure, we will use coding skills. Terraform is one of the best infrastructure as a code tool used to create infrastructure on the cloud platforms, and Terraform can integrate with all cloud platforms. Till now we have seen few general questions, now we will discuss the questions on DevOps tools. What is version control? And describe its types. Version control is nothing but the handling of versions, and this can be achieved using a version control system. A version control system is a technical tool that tracks the implementation updates and merges those updates with the current code. So if the developers change the code often, then the updated code will use for seamless development. There are two types of version control systems. They are: centralized version control system. All files will be located in the central server, and this will not allow developers to have a copy of the code to the local system, and if a single server has failed, they will lose the code files completely. Distributed version control system. Here the code files will store on the developer's local system, which helps us handle the team coordination and does not rely on a single location for backup. Explain the concept of branching in Git. This question is used for testing your knowledge on branching, along with an example, so answer this with the help of the example as shown below. Suppose you are working on an application, and you want to add a new feature to the app. You can create a new branch and build a new feature on that branch. By default, you always work on the master branch. The circles on the branch represent various commits made on the branch. After you're done with all the changes, you can merge them with the master branch. Explain some basic Git commands that are used in the day-to-day activities of DevOps. Here are the common Git commands. Those are used for version control. Command and its usage. Git add. This command will help Git to track the changes and add them to the staging area. Git commit. This will commit the files present in the staging area. Git push. Push the commit to your remote repository on the GitHub. Git remote add. Used to add the remote repository in your local PC. Git init. This will initialize Git inside the local repository. Git branch. This command is used to create branches. What is container orchestration? Here, this question is used to understand the basic definition of container orchestration. Hence the answer should be straightforward. The process of virtualization software at the OS level is known as containerization, which will help us run the application in a virtualized environment. Still, it will launch the minimal requirement for the application. This process is known as container orchestration. What are the advantages of Docker over virtual machines? This question will be asked during the interview to understand the difference between Docker containers over a virtual machine, as both will do virtualization. So you can pick any two differences as your answer. Here, differentiate between virtual machine and Docker are as follows. Virtual machine occupies a lot of memory space. Running multiple virtual machines leads to unstable performance, compatibility issues while porting across different platforms. VM cannot share the data volume. Docker containers occupy less space. Containers have a better performance, as they are hosted in a single Docker engine. Docker is easily portable across different platforms. Data volumes are shared and used again across multiple containers. Difference between Docker image and container? Here are the differences between Docker image and container. Docker images. Docker images are templates of Docker containers. An image is built using a Docker file. It is stored in a Docker repository or a Docker hub. The image layer is a read-only file system. Docker container. Containers are runtime instances of a Docker image. Containers are created using Docker images. They are stored in the Docker daemon. Every container layer is a read-write file system. What is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is an open-source container orchestration tool. This is released in 2015 by Google. Kubernetes is the most reliable and has more features, which follows master-slave architecture, and has more features than Docker Compose. They are mainly used to maintain the health of containers and allow us to monitor container status. Why Kubernetes is used? In simpler terms, we can say Kubernetes is one of the container orchestration tools, but you need to explain in detail. Kubernetes is a portable, extensible, open-source platform for managing containerized workloads and services that facilitates both declarative configuration and automation. It has a large, rapidly growing ecosystem. Kubernetes services, support, and tools are widely available. What is a namespace in Kubernetes? Namespace is a way to divide the cluster resources among the users in Kubernetes. It is very helpful when multiple users are using the same cluster. What is continuous testing? Continuous testing is also known as application testing, where the application is tested regularly before going to the production server. And the process of testing applications continuously with the help of automated test cases is known as continuous testing. What are the types of testing? For this question, the answer should be simple by explaining types of software testing. Software testing is divided into 3 types of testing. They are black box testing, white box testing, continuous testing. Here Selenium comes under continuous testing, but there are several types of testing present in the market. They are black box testing is further divided into 3 types: acceptance testing, beta testing, system testing. White box testing is further divided into 2 types of testing. They are integration and unit testing. What are the different components of Selenium? There are 4 major components of Selenium. They are Selenium RC, Selenium IDE, Selenium Grid, WebDriver. Selenium RC stands for Selenium Remote Control, and this is a web server that acts as an HTTP proxy, which helps our testing guide define the test cases. Selenium IDE has a simple framework used for prototypes, and Selenium IDE is created as an extension of Firefox. Selenium Grid is used to enable parallel testing of multiple applications, and parallel execution of test cases will reduce the time for execution. WebDriver is the first testing framework that can control the browser over the internet from the OS level. What is a WebDriver? This is an extension to the previous question, so explain it furthermore. WebDriver drives a browser natively, as a user would, either locally or on a remote machine using the Selenium server, marks a leap forward in terms of browser automation. Selenium WebDriver refers to both the language bindings and the implementations of the individual browser controlling code. This is commonly referred to as just WebDriver. What is meant by continuous integration? For this question, you should start with the basic definition of continuous integration. It is a development process in software development where the code file will be committed several times a day. To test the code, we will build and send it to the operation team. This process of integrating the changes between the developer and operations team is known as continuous integration. Explain the architecture of Jenkins. Jenkins follows the master-slave architecture. Here Jenkins master will pull the source code from the repository and then build the changes inside node machines so that the respective team will work on the code integration, which distributes the workload to all the Jenkins nodes. What are the key components of Jenkins pipeline? There are 4 components of Jenkins pipeline. They are pipeline, user-defined model of a CD pipeline. The pipeline's code defines the entire build process. Node, a machine that is part of the Jenkins environment and capable of executing a pipeline. Stage, this is a subset of Jenkins jobs performed through the entire pipeline. Step, this is a single task that tells Jenkins to make a particular point in time. What is Jenkins file? Jenkins file is a text file containing the definitions of the Jenkins pipeline, which is saved inside the source code repository. This is responsible for the complete Jenkins pipeline with the code iteration in the pipeline. What is a C/CD pipeline? In software development, the application will be built and deployed to live servers continuously to execute all these tasks into a queue, which helps to automate the complete integration and deployment. How can we secure Jenkins? The major ways to secure Jenkins are given below, and there are other ways as well, but these are the major ways for securing Jenkins. Ensure global security is on. Ensure that Jenkins is integrated with my company's user directory with the appropriate plugin. Ensure that the project matrix is enabled to fine-tune access. Automate the process of setting privileges in Jenkins with a custom version-controlled script. Limit physical access to Jenkins folders. Periodically run security audits on same. What is configuration management? Configuration management is a process of managing the system configurations in the cluster. Configuration management will be achieved using Ansible and Puppet, and configuration management is used to maintain the integrity of the product or system throughout the lifecycle by making the development process controllable. There are 2 types of configuration management. What are the types of configuration management? This question is based on your previous question answer, so you need to explain the types in detail. There are two types of configuration management, those are push configuration, pull configuration. Push configuration is used to send the configurations from a single server to all other servers in the cluster. Pull configuration is used to fetch the changes from the master node by all other slave nodes in the cluster. What is Puppet? Puppet is one of the configuration management tools. Puppet follows pull configuration where the node machines will pull the changes using an SSL certificate. Puppet has a master-slave architecture. The slave has to first send a certificate signing request to the master. The master has to sign that certificate to establish a secure connection between Puppet master and Puppet slave, as shown on the diagram below. Puppet slave sends request to Puppet master, and Puppet master then pushes configuration on slave. What are Puppet manifests? This is an extension to the previous question where we have defined Puppet architecture. Now, in this question, we need to explain how configurations are managed. Here manifest is the file written in Puppet native language syntax to instruct node machine about the configuration. These details are written in the language which Puppet can understand and are termed as manifests. What is a class in Puppet? Classes are named blocks in your manifest that configure various functionalities of the node, such as services, files, and packages. The classes are added to a node's catalog and are executed only when explicitly invoked. What is Ansible? Ansible is one of the configuration management tool. Ansible follows the push configuration tool, where the configuration is pushed from the master machine, and the master-slave architecture is connected with the help of keyless access and Python. Ansible is widely used in the market for configuration management. What are playbooks in Ansible? Playbooks are responsible for configuration management. If you need to execute a task with Ansible more than once, write a playbook and put it under source control. Then you can use the playbook to push out new configuration or confirm the configuration of remote systems. Playbooks are written with YAML syntax. What is Ansible module? Modules are considered to be the units of work in Ansible. Each module is mostly standalone and can be written in a standard scripting language such as Python, Perl, Ruby, Bash. One of the guiding properties of modules is idempotency, which means that even if an operation is repeated multiple times. What is Chef? A chef is an automation tool that provides a way to define infrastructure as a code, and here this means managing the infrastructure by writing code. Chef is written in Ruby, and that helps to create a reusable application in the development. What are cookbooks in Chef? Cookbook in Chef is a group of recipes together to make the infrastructure more manageable, and also, this helps our application reuse in multiple parts of development. What is IAC? IAC is nothing but infrastructure as a code, which is helpful for the development to use the infrastructure, instead of creating the reusable resources every time, and this reduces the time spent to create the application. Terraform is one of the tools used for handling the resources over cloud. What is Terraform? Terraform is the tool that can be integrated with cloud providers, and this will help the DevOps team to create the resources over cloud providers, and this is integrated with major cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and GCP. What is continuous monitoring? Continuous monitoring allows timely identification of problems or weaknesses and quick corrective action that helps reduce expenses of an organization. Continuous monitoring provides the solution that addresses three operational disciplines known as continuous audit, continuous controls monitoring, continuous transaction inspection. What is Nagios? Nagios is one of the monitoring tools. It is used for continuous monitoring of systems, applications, services, and business processes, etc., in a DevOps culture. In the event of a failure, Nagios can alert technical staff of the problem, allowing them to begin remediation processes before outages affect business processes, end users, or customers. What are plugins in Nagios? Begin this answer by defining plugins. Plugins are scripts that can run from a command line to check the status of a host or a service. Nagios uses the results from plugins to determine the current status of hosts and services on your network. Once you have defined plugins, explain why we need plugins. Nagios will execute a plugin whenever there is a need to check a host or service status. The plugin will perform the check and then simply returns the result to Nagios. Nagios will process the results that it receives from the plugin and take the necessary actions. What are the types of checks in Nagios? There are two types of checks. These are known as active and passive checks. Where active checks are initiated as a result of Nagios process and the checks can be scheduled regularly. And passive checks are initiated through external applications, and the results will be submitted to Nagios for processing. Common questions on cloud and Linux basics in DevOps interviews. What is cloud computing? Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services, such as computing power, storage, and databases, on an as-needed basis from a cloud provider like Amazon Web Services, AWS, Azure, GCP. What are the major cloud providers in the market? Here, this question is used to test the knowledge of cloud providers. Our answer with the major cloud providers like AWS, Amazon Web Services, Azure, GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Explain few services provided by AWS and used in DevOps. Here, the services are provided by AWS are Code Build, Code Commit, EC2 instances, Code Deploy, Code Pipeline. What is the difference between AWS DevOps and Azure DevOps? This is one of the tricky questions asked to understand your knowledge, so the answer should start with an introduction to DevOps. Here, AWS and Azure are the cloud providers. They provide enterprise tools or services for DevOps tools that help to work more efficiently. Name 3 important DevOps KPIs. There are 3 major KPIs that are important for DevOps. Failure recovery, high frequency in deployment. Reduce the percentage of a failed deployment. Till now, we have seen the top 50 questions asked in various interview questions, and now we will start with the interview tips. Here is the roadmap to start a career in DevOps roles. For DevOps roles, there are some practices that allow you to become professional. They are Linux basics, scripting, DevOps tools, hands-on experience of DevOps tools, cloud computing skills. The above are the common skills required for the DevOps roles. If you are interested in the domain, then start learning these skills, which will help you in landing a new job. After verifying DevOps roles offered by multiple organizations, there are certain skills that are common in their description, which is mandatory for an individual to start looking for a job in DevOps. They are knowledge on DevOps tools, scripting languages, cloud computing, networking protocols, troubleshooting skills. So now you have seen some of the most common DevOps interview questions you may encounter during an interview. As a DevOps engineer, you must be well versed in processes, applications, and related technologies. These DevOps interview questions will help you learn more about the other DevOps aspects. Consider taking a certification course at Invensis Learning to further improve your knowledge of DevOps and to ace every interview.